Instagram just does this thing where I have to wait just a few seconds before I can actually say, hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fran and Friends. As you know, when you see Fran, it's Friday. So I'm going to put on our little intro song here, and here we go.
Let's go. Let's get it. 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 Let's go. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's go.
Oh, I guess I just wanted a double dose today. Hey everyone, welcome to Fran and Friends. I have a NASDAQ Circle sister with me, Mrs. Marlo Young, and she is going to share a bit about mental health, what mental health is versus mental illness. And I'm going to read a bit about her background because every time I try to do it impromptu, I totally mess up the whole introduction. So, for the sake of introducing her properly, I'm going to read it. So, Mrs. Marlo Young, MS, is the CEO of New Mind Mindset Consulting LLC and co founder and president of Prima Girl Mentorship Program. She's a passionate mental health advocate for all individuals. And for her, it's very rewarding to help others accomplish their goals and reach their future potential. Mrs. Young has earned her Bachelor's of Science degree from Alabama State University in psychology and earned her first Master of Science degree in counseling psychology. Girl, all these degrees, yes. Second Master of Science degree in adult continuing education. I'm going to be doing a lot of snapping, y'all just know. From University of West Alabama. She's also a certified adult and young mental health first aid instructor and a board certified mental health coach. Mrs. Young is married to Reverend Dr. Donzel Young, the pastors of New Generation Ministry Baptist Church of Atmore, Alabama. And they have two daughters, Ariana Young and Zaya Young. I hope I pronounced her name right. Yes. Mrs. Marlo Young, it is now in your court.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Fran, for having me here today. I'm excited to talk to you all about mental health and about my passion. So I'm excited for this opportunity. Thank you, Fran, for that beautiful introduction. When I just think about it, I love helping people. I'm a helper, and I'm passionate about mental health and advocating for people to make sure that they get any necessary resources or tools that they need to live a mentally healthy life.
So, how did you get into mental health in the first place? I like to ask that question first.
Yes. Well, mental health was not, something that I researched and said, okay, this is what I wanted to do. But I finished my associate's degree, it was a general degree, and I had an opportunity to do an accelerated bachelor's degree in psychology. And I said, well, I think that would be a great field to go into because with psychology, you use psychology in everything. So I took that opportunity and I got my bachelor's degree. And so just that knowledge and, hunger for more. I completed the bachelor's and then I went on into counseling psychology. So I saw where the pivot started out with just psychology, but now I want to be able to utilize that skill or that topic and apply it as far as mental health and counseling to help someone that may be struggling with mental health challenges. And so, and from there, I worked as a school-based children's therapist at one of our local elementary, middle, and high school, offering those counseling services as I completed my internship. And so from there, I saw what I really enjoy educating people, teaching people coping skills, but my passion was educating them and bringing that awareness about mental health. And that's how I ended up in this particular area of mental health coaching and with like the mental health first aid is educating our community, because, when we think about mental health, we have different thoughts about that terminology. And so knowing exactly what mental health is and accurately defining it helps to decrease the stigma around mental health versus mental illness. And it also promotes help seeking behavior when people understand what mental health really is versus mental
So,
illness.
so what is the difference between the two?
I'm glad you asked, Fran. There is a difference. When we think about mental health is something that we all have 100% every day. And to accurately define it, the World Health Organization, they have defined mental health. It is physical, mental, and social well being. And so their definition is a state of well being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities and they can cope with the normal stresses of life. They can work productively and fruitfully and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. And so that's what mental health means.
And then what about mental illness?
Okay. And so when we think about mental illness, the word mental health is what we call an umbrella term. So mental health is the umbrella that mental illness, mental disorder, mental well being, and then mental fitness is under that umbrella. So when we think about the difference, it's pretty much the language that's around mental health is constantly evolving. So mental illness is a clinical term that describes a condition. So it can impact a person's mood, their way of thinking, their behavior, um, and that it's difficult to feel emotionally and cognitively well. And so when we think about mental illness, we think about a disorder, whether it may be obsessive compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, um, ADHD. So when we think about those particular terms, that's when we talk about mental illness. It could be acute, meaning that it could be something that's short term, or it could be something that's chronic, that's long term. And 50% of people will experience a mental illness at some point. But just because a person has a mental illness does not mean that they cannot have a mentally healthy life. Um,
Mm.
and when we say that, we're talking about making sure that if they need medication, they're taking their meds. If they need to talk with a therapist or a psychologist, they are seeking the help that they need, the professional help that they need in order to have that mentally healthy life.
So, is it safe to say that those that are mentally healthy, they have more of a handle on their self-regulation versus those that are mentally ill or are labeled as mentally ill? Or is that a whole different term? Am I using a whole different term that I shouldn't be? Because there's mentally ill, and mental illness, which I'm assuming that illness is something that can be cured. Mentally ill is a form of, I'm not sure if this is the right term to be using, a retardation, maybe.
Okay. And they don't technically use that term
Okay,
anymore, but we utilize the term of intellectual disability, and
intellectual disability. Okay,
intellectual disability would be the proper terminology to use. So not stating that it's some type of intellectual disability, but when we talk about mental illness, we're talking about what's in the diagnostic statistic manual that they consider to be a mental illness. Um, and that can be, treated, or there's um, a treatment plan that a therapist or psychologist can put into place, for an individual. So those would be two different areas when we think about intellectual disability. If a person may have be on the spectrum, or a person may have some type of developmental delay or disorder. So that would be different from a mental illness, such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. So that would be something. Those are two different types of
Okay, thank you for
areas.
clearing that up.
Yes, two
And
different
yeah,
areas.
my apologies. I am not a mental. Well, I can have moments of being a little crazy, for self, but I am. I don't have a degree in health or anything of that nature. I'm trying to utilize the words that I have that I know in my own
Mhm.
definition. So thank you. Correct me if you see, there's a space like, hey, friend, let me help you with that.
Okay. And language matters, and
Yeah.
that's a big component of that destigmatization, destigmatizing mental health, because we got to know the right language to utilize so that
Okay.
people are not feeling that they afraid to go and get help because of what people would think of them.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
did hear of a story where I believe a lady was experiencing mental illness, and she used a holistic approach in addition to also using Western medicine,
Okay.
and saying that neither one was either like good or bad. She just needed it for the balance for her life.
Okay.
Um, how, I guess, how would you approach utilizing one versus another, holistic versus Western medicine? Is allopathic Western medicine
I'm not that familiar with that particular
term?
term,
Okay.
but it's your treatment or whatever help that you seek is not going to be cookie cutter, meaning that everyone goes through the same type of treatment or the same type of process. That's where, the professionals, I would say the licensed professionals, come in, where they're going to, work with that individual, um, do therapy with that individual, and lay out a treatment plan. And if it's medication, that's something that they may seek from their family doctor, or a referral to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So that's, knowing, just being able to know the professionals is important too, in case that you have someone that you need to help. And I always tell people, always refer back to your family doctor, your family practitioner, because see, they can connect you to pretty much any professional, health professional or mental health professional. So that's always important, being able to have that type of knowledge of the medical field, of who you can refer a person to. And the family doctors are always great at that.
Okay.
And so to me, it's something they'll have to decide with their doctor or with the professional that's over their care.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Earlier you mentioned there's 50% of us are exposed to mental health. Is that what I think I heard?
Yes, and I think it was actually
51%?
mental mental disorder, mental illness. Let me go back and look at that really quick. But yes, and that doesn't mean that it's always a diagnosis. It could be something, from grief and loss, where
Mm,
a person can go, maybe um, go into some type of depression. So, and when I think of that 50%, that's what that particular research, I believe it's like it encompasses more than just the illness or the disorder, but other types of challenges as well.
mm. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, what kind of strategies can people use to manage their mental health? I know you mentioned some
Mhm.
strategies for mental illness, which is going to go see their family family doctor, right?
Yes, or
To
professional
help get some
practitioner.
referrals there, yes, or professionals.
Yes, yes. And just some everyday strategies. And I'm really big on self-care. Self-care is so vital and so important to anyone. and especially someone in the helping field, that are helping others, whether they're educators, they're healthcare providers, any professional. Self-care is key. And just some of the strategies and the tips that I've seen in research and that I've tried myself, that helps to improve mental health. Definitely, staying active, um, a good exercise regimen if you're able to do some type of exercise, staying active, getting on the outside, getting some good sunlight, some vitamin D always helps to elevate your mood. One of the things that I've been doing here recently, and then I've worked with individuals and students in times past, is encouraging them to keep a journal, to write about their feelings, um, and expressing themselves. So that's always something great to do. Connecting with others, socializing with others, whether it's a family, friend, a loved one, but having that social life is very important as well. And another great one is the digital detox. Turning off
Yeah.
electronics sometimes, so that you can be present in the moment. And that this kind of reminds me of mindfulness, being mindful and present in the moment, um, and just kind of detoxing from some of the things that you're always on, but kind of disconnecting from that. Those are some great tips, but definitely self-care. Self-care is one of those things that it's not selfish, but in order to pour into others, you have to be able to pour into yourself. So self-care is something that is intentional, and it is something that you put in place that recharges you and that re-energizes you, but doesn't deplete you. So self-care for me could be going to the beach or going outside and sitting in my swing and just kind of um, being mindful and being present in the moment. And you could tell me something that you may do or you may enjoy for self-care, but it's something that has to recharge you and pour back into you.
Yeah, I was at the NASDAQ event with the Circle Sisters, and it was a great day. It was beautiful. Like, we had
Mhm.
so much um just knowledge poured out into us that day. And but I was exhausted afterwards. And there were
Mhm.
two trees in front of the NASDAQ building. Girlfriend, I ran right up to the tree and gave that thing a big old hug. And I felt so good
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yes.
Like, it just,
Awesome.
yeah, I was just like, I needed you. Thank you
Mm,
for being
yes,
there. So,
yes. I love that, being on the outside with
yeah. So you mentioned something earlier about social life. What if people don't have like social connections? Will the digital landscape of social media also serve them in a way that will cater to that need of connection?
Mhm.
Yes.
I miss I missed part of what you stated at first because I think our my
Okay,
internet may have.
I can repeat it. No problem.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're welcome. Earlier, you mentioned that mental health
Mhm.
contributes to us helping to regulate ourselves a bit better, and social life is one of the things that we should do is connecting with other people. What
Mhm.
if the person doesn't have an opportunity to physically connect with someone, and
Mhm.
digital life is what they know, as far as like
Mhm.
maybe on Instagram and YouTube?
Mhm.
Would that be a substitute for real physical connection?
I feel that it can be, especially if they, you know, don't have someone to connect to immediately that or that's within I guess close proximity and they have to do it online, of course. I guess when we think about the turning off of the electronics or the digital detox is more so um if you have that social connection, but you spend a lot of time, um, on the I guess the social media platforms or just on devices, then that can kind of be a challenge. But of course, if they don't have that personal connection where they can immediately get in touch with someone, and that's the only way, we definitely want them to continue to have that connection, of course, because during the pandemic, this was all we had
Right.
was the
Was that digital
the
connection.
devices. Yeah, the Zoom meetings. That was the only way we could communicate. So now we're kind of, slowly getting back to that face-to-face kind of connection because there's nothing like that face-to-face and that personal touch.
But what is it about that? What is it about that that makes it so significant for our mental health?
I, I think it's just because it's innate. It's something that we need. And I just, to me, it's just a natural type of thing. A touch is something that's natural.
Mm.
And I don't know anyone that can go without that. I feel like that's something we all need. We all need a hug from time to time. We all need our hand held from time to time. So that's just our nature. So we got to have that.
Yeah. I thought about like when we come out of our mom's womb,
Hmm.
that the umbilical cord is there, and the first thing that we do, of course, is that connection with the baby.
Yes, yes, that touch, that feel. Yes.
All
So
right. So I wanted to shift into what are some ways that we could promote mental health?
wow, there are so many great ways to promote mental health. And some of the things that I've been doing for the past 4 years, definitely, I try to push out content, on social media and sharing about mental health awareness. Um, One of the things that I do each year is an annual mental health awareness walk in my community.
Oh, that's nice.
And yes, and I thoroughly enjoy, and it's to raise awareness. So we pick our start and our climax, and we try to walk in an area where where we can be seen because that's what we want. We want to raise that awareness, and we want
Mm.
people to know what we are walking for.
How
So
far are they walking?
we walk about we do probably about a little over a mile. I got to actually get the estimate, but I think it's over a mile.
Okay.
Um, and so we climax at a park or at a certain location. This past year, I climaxed with a resource fair. So we have a area, they call it the Boxcar Willie. So it's a kind of like an entertainment area. So I had different organizations like the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is NAMI. I had the peer engaged in recovery, which they help people that are battling with substance abuse or in recovery. So I try to have a lot of the local licensed professional counselors, the practitioners in our local community mental health to have those resources there for the community and for anyone that wants to come out and get those resources. And that's because a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know. We don't know what may be available in our community and how to get access to those resources. And so that's what I have been doing for the past 4 years is raising awareness with the walks. And I also contact my local city council and mayor and also the state governor to request a mental health awareness month proclamation,
Mm.
which is the month of May is mental health awareness month. So each year I request that I from my entire county, which is we have about 4 different areas that our schools are located. So I ask each mayor and city councilman to declare the month of May Mental Health Awareness Month in their area, and also the state of Alabama. I've had Governor Kay Ivey to send me a proclamation declaring the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month in Alabama and in Escambia County, Alabama. So that's
Awesome.
another great way. Yes.
What?
But
Go ahead. No, please.
I also think that, you know, with education, educating our community as well, I had an opportunity to be certified as a um, with the National Alliance on Mental, actually the National Council of Wellbeing, and I'm certified as a youth and an adult first aid instructor. So I teach others how to recognize the signs and the symptoms of mental distress or mental disorder and know how to connect a person to a professional so that they can get the help that they need. So that's
I
another
like
great way.
Yeah, I like that. I remember us talking about that before we got
Mhm,
on the podcast. I think it was last week or something.
mhm.
Um, so if they take that course, they'll be able to identify what some of the symptoms are of people
Mhm.
that are maybe either suicidal or is there a specific word I'm looking for here?
Someone that may be in mental distress, but
Okay.
also the signs and the symptoms of someone that may be having suicidal thoughts. So it goes into that deeper training as well. And so they have a like a five letter acronym. It's called ALGE, and so it's like a 5-step process of them being able to recognize those warning signs and symptoms. But also once they've gone through the training, it's usually like about a 6 to 8 hour training course. They are certified as a mental health first aider for 3 years. This particular certification does not, you know, give them the permission to diagnose anyone, but it helps them to be more aware and to be able to identify a person who may be in crisis.
Okay. So it's almost like when a life coach gets a trauma informed certification, it's
Okay.
really you being informed of the symptoms, but not necessarily being able to diagnose
Yeah,
them on a professional level.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay. What does
Mhm.
algae stand for?
The ALGE stands for, and if you'll let me get it, um, I want to be accurate on this because I want
Sure.
the information to get out there. And I should know this off the top of my head, but I want to be very accurate on it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But
I
it's a
don't see
great,
any questions or comments yet. So,
yeah, it's a great training um, that I fell in love with the first time that I went through the training. And it was something that I said, I've got to bring this to my city and to others.
yeah, I thought that was like interesting because I know when I talked to you the other day, um, I just thought of it as a first responder, except for first responder for mental health symptoms.
Yes, and that's exactly, you're exactly right, because they always refer to it like CPR or first aid. And so with that, this is for mental health. The other is for physical, but this one is for mental health. So the A for algae is you're going to assess for the risk of suicide or harm. The L is we want to be able to listen to a person non-judgmentally to let them know this is a non-judgmentally zone.
Okay.
We also want to give them reassurance and information. That's the G. So give reassurance and information. And we also want to encourage appropriate professional help. That's very, very important. That's the first E. And the last E is to encourage self help, excuse me, and other support strategies. So that's where that self care comes into play. And so that's what ALGE stands for. I want to make
So
sure that
algae
I
is
gave you the
spelled
right acronym.
ALGAE.
ALGEE, two E's.
EE. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes.
So I think I
So,
missed one. So I'm going to go over it. Is that okay with you?
okay. Sure.
So A is to assess risk.
Yes.
L is to listen non-judgmentally.
Mhm.
G is to give reassurance.
Mhm.
A is for and information.
E encourage. It was a two
Oh,
E's,
oh,
two
okay,
E's.
okay. So I
Uh-huh.
have, so that's where I'm missing. I have the last one is encouraged to get help. So what's the other E?
The first E is encourage appropriate professional help.
Oh,
And then the second one was encourage self-help. So
okay.
encourage appropriate professional help, and that's to link them to their family doctor, a psychologist, psychiatrist, social worker, or a licensed professional, counselor, therapist.
Okay. I like that.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, so it's a great training.
It sounds like it. It sounds like we could be more aware
Mhm.
when we have the things that we could be looking for. And
Yes.
not that we want to look for it, but it'll make us more heightened in
Mhm.
the spaces that we're having conversations in.
Yes, yes. And, so many professionals that go through this training, I can recall a educator, a teacher that had gone through the training. She's like, "I wish I would have had this tool in my toolbox 20 years ago."
Mhm.
That the training, is just that vital and so, appropriate, and you see where it can definitely be utilized because we can't do it all, but if we can have that type of knowledge under our tool belt, it's something that can help save a life, help get someone that help that they need.
Yeah. I mean, we never really know where people are in their mental space.
We don't.
Yeah. I mean, didn't we see recently a gentleman who had committed, or I guess unalived himself, and his life was like on the outside happy.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
even, with Robin Williams,
mhm.
we don't
Yeah,
ever know what the demons, or it doesn't have to be demons. We never know what people are struggling.
we don't know, and but there's some type of sign, whether, it may be something that's veiled, that may not be that transparent, but
Yeah.
there's something that could be picked up on. So, but just having this type of training and the mental health first aid is one type of training. Then they have what we call the QPR, which is question and persuade and respond. So it's really geared towards suicide prevention. So it's a little shorter version of training, but those are all great trainings to help a person be able to recognize any warning signs or symptoms of a mental health challenge, disorder, or thoughts of suicide.
So I know that I've had the coping mechanism of laughing at things,
Mhm,
uh, which even in traumatic situations, for example, when I was telling my therapist about physical abuse when I was younger,
mhm,
and as she says to me, and right after I told her, "Oh yeah, he did this, this, and this to me," he used to like throw me across the room like a wrestler. And I was like, "Oh, I'm over it now." And then I just laughed boisterously. And
mhm.
then she goes, "Fran, do you realize you just said something super traumatic and then you laughed about it?"
Wow.
I was like, "Yeah, it's a coping mechanism."
Mm, mm,
And
mm,
so she was just like, "Yeah, but I want you to be in the present
mhm.
and feel what that really felt like without the laugh." And I was like,
Wow,
"Oh, damn."
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
the mind is a powerful thing, and the mind, tries to cope with things the best that it knows how. So,
mhm,
but for her to tell you that, to be present with that, to acknowledge that was something traumatic, and to deal with that, was powerful, and it made you
yeah,
kinda look at things a little differently. But like you say, it was a coping mechanism that you had used because it laughter is a coping mechanism, and it can be something that's positive because it helps people to heal also, but it can
Mhm.
be used in a way, to deflect as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad she brought that up because sometimes we need those mirrors of reflection
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that we can identify our own behavior.
Yes.
Well,
So
Earlier
true.
you earlier you mentioned training. Where can
Mhm.
people get training on mental health? Are there
There
resources for that?
Yes. With my coaching, with the new mindset consulting, I actually offer the adult and the youth mental health first aid.
Okay.
There's a So that's available. And in some cases, I'm able to receive funding where it's at no cost or just the cost of the textbook. So those opportunities are available. Um, and also I have my on my website, which is new mindset llc.com. Someone can go on that site and kind of go through and see all the services that I offer, and also inquire about the mental health first aid. Also, there's a lot of great free resources. NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, they have
Mhm.
great on-demand types of trainings on their website, and that's just NAMI.org. You have Mental Health America. They have a free mental health screening tool. So you can, Google Mental Health America and actually go to that free screening tool. It's not something that's going to diagnose you, but it kind of gives you some great
Tools.
information, some resources, yes, tools,
Mhm.
and also that could possibly help connect you to other trainings or to professionals. One of the great tools and resources that they recently launched last year was the National Crisis line, which has always been available, but now it's called 988. So someone can actually dial 988, and it doesn't mean that they have to be in a crisis, but if they want general information about counseling and therapy, or
Mhm.
about suicide prevention or mental health, they can dial that number and they can be linked to a professional, or they can be given some information about local trainings. So 988 is a great number to make sure you have locked into your phone, because you can get a lot of great resources there.
I hope you guys are listening in on this because she just dropped a whole bunch of resources. So
Yes.
she mentioned NAMI, the National Association for Mental Health Institute. Is that right?
National Alliance on Mental
Alliance.
Illness. Yes.
Okay. And then NAMI America, and then the National Crisis Line, which is 988, and then also your website. Could you repeat yours again?
It's New Mindset LLC.com.
Okay. So newmindsetllc.com. Okay, y'all. You can't say that you didn't get any resources from this particular podcast.
Yes, go to that website and you'll get more
Yeah.
resources, and I'll definitely have more to come.
Okay. So we are wrapping up the last 15 minutes of the show, but before we transition into the next phase, what would be something that you want the audience to leave with, to take
Mm.
away?
Definitely what I would want the audience to take away is that mental health is something that we all have. Mental health does not mean that it's a mental disease or a mental disorder, but it just means that you're able to cope in everyday life. And I want people to understand that we have to take care of our mental health. We have to attend to our mental health, so that it does not turn into a mental health challenge or disorder or distress. So that's why we want to raise that awareness about mental health, accurately defining it, and also connecting people to resources, that it's okay to talk to someone and it's okay not to be okay, but be able to recognize when something is not, you don't feel quite like yourself, and reach out to someone. So that's my main goal, is just to be able to promote mental health awareness as a normal, that it's okay to talk about mental health. It should not be a stigma attached to mental health. Just like our physical health, we have to attend to it. We go to our doctors to get a physical or a checkup, a wellness checkup. Same thing with our mental health. When we feel like things are not quite right, talk to someone about it. Seek out that help, or find out what type of help is available out there for you. So that's my main takeaway.
Well, thank you. Like I repeated before, everyone that's watching, there are resources on here that we talked about for you to obtain. So I'll repeat it again. NAMI, and then NAMI America, and the National Crisis Line, which is 988. And then we have your website again, Marlo?
New mindset,
New Mindset LLC.com.
newmindsetllc.com.
Okay. So thank you for that. And I'm going to shift into the questions that I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
All right. So your first one is number 7. And number 7 is, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Well, I've always said that I was an introvert growing up, but everyone that I tell that to, they's like, no, you're not an introvert. You're an extrovert. But I feel that um, I like my me time and I like being to myself. And so I can be very quiet at times. But I guess as I have gotten older and matured, I do feel like I'm kind of in between. So that's a kind of, I straddle the fence on that one.
You're an introvert posing as an extrovert,
Yes,
or
I
vice
have
versa.
yeah, vice versa. I think it's more
Oh,
so the introvert posing as an extrovert.
okay, okay, okay. Um, for your next question is, what were you like as a child?
Oh, well, I feel like as a child, I think that's one of my mother questions. My mom would probably answer that better. But just from my perspective, I feel like I was always, inquisitive, wanting to know different things, or wanting to tinker and fix this. But I've always, been the little chatterbox, always talkative. So I always had on my report card, too talkative. So I guess that lets you know that I was not an introvert, because I always had too talkative on my report card. But I was a lovable little child. I feel like I was a sweet child.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got those grades and those remarks. You definitely were not an introvert.
I just answered that question then.
Yes. So your last question is, what surprised you most when you first started? And I'm assuming that's about your career.
Oh. I guess what surprised me the most was some feedback that I had gotten from my supervisor, and I've continued to get that type of feedback from other supervisors or from others that I didn't know about myself. But one of the things that when I was completing my internship, she told me, she said, "You have a very calming presence," and
I told
and I
you that
guess
when we first came on, didn't I?
you may have. I think you have. But she said you have a very calming presence, and she can see that that's why, people they gravitated to me and love to talk to me. And I never, I guess, thought that of myself, and then I hear other people tell me the same thing. And so I said, okay, and that was surprising. But you never know the type of energy that you give off, or what people feel gather from you. So that was something that was positive, a good positive takeaway. So that
Yeah, I
lets me
mean,
know that I'm in the right field. 'Cause
mhm.
also
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I thought that you were already a doctor,
uh-huh.
because of your cadence and your behavior, and I was just
Mhm.
like, okay, I think she's a doctor.
I'm
But
halfway there. I'm halfway there.
yeah, also too, I also get like a feeling of regalness.
Oh, I've been
Yeah,
told that too.
yeah,
Yeah, been told
yeah.
that too. Thank you.
Well, my darling, I appreciate you joining us on Fran and Friends. And if you can let people know where they can find you, I know we shared those resources, but that was for training. Um,
Mhm,
so if you have any other things that might be coming up, if you could share
mhm.
with the people where they could find you.
Okay. Well, definitely connect with me on my website, newmindsetllc.com. I am on LinkedIn, Marlo Young, Miss Marlo Young. Also, my LLC, New Mindset Consulting LLC, is on LinkedIn as well. You can find me on Facebook, New Mindset Consulting, Marlo Young on Facebook as well. And definitely when I have upcoming events or a podcast, I'll definitely try to share that on my social media platforms. But definitely reach out to me through via my website will be another way that you can reach out and find out about more services, or if you like to book a time with me as well.
Well, thank you again, Ms. Marlowe. My NASDAQ sister, I appreciate you for making time to invest here and to help educate people on what the difference is between mental health and mental illness.
Yes, thank you so much, Fran, for the opportunity, and I hope that it was helpful. And like I stated earlier, if they have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my social media.
Okay, if you can hold on just a second, Ms. Marlowe. Okay, I'm going to end the live.
Okay.